better angle the thing properly. Once in a while, I decide to just go live for a little bit, and even though I was going to start this about 10 minutes ago, I decided to start with getting myself a cup of coffee because I need one. So, cheers. And I'll be back in about 2 minutes because I have to go grab something. Enjoy the sounds of nature until then. I actually am not quite prepared. I was setting up the camera. That's the thing about these stupid live things. But hey, I don't get paid for it, so I'll be back in a minute. sounds of the neighborhood. And those are the sounds of my neighborhood. Oh my god, there's people here. Holy shit. Tony and Chris. Oh, I didn't think people were actually going to visit. I kind of started this as like a half joke, and I've got this, I'm using this, my son's old Android pad from a few years back, and I was having issues casting. I lost my phone at a job I was working this weekend, and out in the woods, and fortunately somebody found it, so now I can at least get it back. But for now, I don't have any way to cast or stream. I don't have any fancy cameras. I have a really shitty computer, so my intention was to come here tonight. It's about 5:30, 5:45 p.m. Pacific time in the Portland area, and I thought that might be a good happy medium where people on the East Coast could also join in. This is really an open forum discussion, so please, this will be directed by you all, because I don't, there's different reasons people live stream. I'll be honest, I enjoy having discussions with people. I feel like y'all are friends, you know, you'll join in and have your own opinions on things, and that's what I appreciate. Not agreeing with me, that kind of crap. I'm very open to discussions, contributions, thoughts about videos I've made in the past that you might disagree with. Like, I don't want to marginalize or dismiss anybody's views. I have some strong opinions about things, and sometimes those opinions can turn into almost, I try not to lean into facts and pretending that I know what I'm talking about. And I hope that comes across in the videos that I make, that I never intend to be the guy who knows it all, because I sure as hell don't. I'm the jack of all trades, master of none. But the rest of that is often is better than master of one, meaning that I'd prefer to know many things than just one. Helps my sanity, helps me remain stable, grounded. Just to say hello to everybody. Hello to Chris. Good to see you, Bunny. Good to see you, Tony. And I appreciate the donation, Tony. I really do. That means a lot. I don't make any money on YouTube except the donations I get through shit like this, or through PayPal, or through Patreon. So, you know, everything is helpful, but I obviously don't do this for money. I have another job, so. Joshua, or that chair is such a bore. Come down, give us some more. Yeah, I get it. I was still gone, weren't I? Alright, so, ugly to have a camera that close to your face. Yeah, so am I. I have to comb my hair and pretend like I'm decent looking. It's just how it is. Polymath, says Yes, polymath, or another term that somebody made up, coined term, was multi-potentialite, which I actually liked. And they started an entire movement off of this multi-potentialite things, meaning that you can do many different things, which I think is fantastic. And Tony says, I can't find your herbs website. I wanted to know where to buy some kratom. Okay, I need to make this a side note. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. I'm down to my last several kilos. Actually, I have a lot of kilos of this enhanced blend, and anybody who's taken it knows the enhanced blends are kind of browner and they look kind of weird. I wasn't, I didn't think it was the greatest batch. But anyway, point being that my website's gone. I don't sell it anymore professionally, but I've been wanting to just supply it for people who need it. I stopped selling kratom because the product started going downhill, but on top of that, I understood the addictive potential, and it just, most of all, the biggest issue is I just wasn't feeling fulfilled by just selling a product, by taking an herb, buying in quantity, making smaller quantities and selling it. It just did not move me spiritually at all. And I was making a lot more than I am now, by the time I worked especially. But it just, it's really hard when you're not motivated. And I understand a lot of people will do whatever they can. I worked another job doing air duct cleaning. I was going to do a video about this earlier. Air duct cleaning. Somebody else made one. A channel called Pleasant Green. That's just the name of the channel. Pleasant Green. You should check him out. He's just kind of this dorky dude who talks about like scams, and he kind of like tries to expose scams and scammers. And he found these ads for air duct cleaning on Facebook or whatnot, and did some investigating, finding out that the original, like, I think it was from like Pakistan or something, is where the original people were calling from. But then they were selling like local people who would come and do air duct cleaning at your house, and it was this whole thing about a scam where they would just, he was looking for the scam. And I was saying, I used to work in air duct cleaning for like 2 years for my father-in-law. I used what they call a roto brush. It's basically a vacuum hose, but it has a rotating brush on the end. So there's a cable going all the way through it, and you feed it down the air ducts. Now, in an old round air duct, they work great. They will brush it out and clean it, especially if you do it properly. However, once you get to the plenum or the main air returns, which are usually square, you can't get it all, and what you do is stir up more dust, make more allergens and more problems for the house. When they turn on the furnace, it kicks out a bunch of shit, and I turned down customers. I was like, yours are clean, you don't need it. And he'd be like, you should do it anyway. And these were overhead air ducts, so if you ever get your air ducts clean because they're dirty, don't do the overhead ones. Just tell them, no, I want the ground level ones and I want a discount. And make sure that they're using a machine where they cut into the air plenum in the furnace and have a strong vacuum system. And then they run compressed air nozzles with a rotating head on it so they can kick all that dust out and make sure every bit of it's gone. Otherwise, you're just getting ripped off. So, air duct cleaning out of the way, homeowner's nightmare. I had to quit that work too because it was not fulfilling, but also because I didn't feel like I was doing justice to the people I worked for. And my boss would get mad at me, which my boss was my father-in-law. Bless his soul, he's passed now. But he just wanted to make money, and I get it. Everybody wants to make money. We all have to make it. We all have to get by. But I can't do it dishonestly. I can't rip people off. I can't sit here and put a fucking vocal advertisement for some stupid video game or a VPN. It's something I just don't understand. Like, these are some of the most respected YouTubers that I know have just gone downhill so bad in their advertising. But also, some have lost their mind, like Suspicious Observer, for example. He's a YouTuber that talks about the sun and what's going on with solar flares and how they relate to earthquakes. He was very involved in the Electric Universe thing with Walt Thornhill and all this mumbo jumbo back in the day, which I bought into and a lot of people bought into. It sounded plausible. It made sense. If you're not familiar, it's very widespread ideas about how the Earths are electric. There were electric scarring on the Earth and Mars done by, like, say, plasma from planets getting too close together, how these charges build up and how all stars are interconnected by electricity, some sort of an electric current, which makes sense, of course. But also that the sun is connected to the Earth, which also makes sense. We know this is true. We're all connected, and the Earth is connected in many different ways to the planets. But at the same time, you can't just say, because of this, we have this new theory about the whole universe and everybody should buy into it. And that's what they were doing. But this guy, Ben, who does Suspicious Observer, Ben Davidson, I've been watching his channel for like 12 years, and it was so good. At least I thought it was good. And then a few of his live casts got really, like, he attacked me personally. I thought it was funny because I actually was like, Ben, I thought you were here for a Q&A to answer questions on a live cast. And he's like, Carpo says this, and he reads it and he gets all pissy about it. Like, because I'm not saying he recognized me or my name, but he might have, because I've been commenting on his channel for fucking the last 10 years. But he got all pissy. Then his next live one said, like, no salt Q&A. And I'm assuming he meant no saltiness, that he meant, he was trying to put on a different image. But Ben's fine. He's just trying to sell his wares, which is, he's setting up, he thinks that the Earth is doomed. And over the last 10 years, he's created this kind of doom cult based on the fact that the Earth is going to go into full collapse because of, he doesn't believe in climate or man-made climate change or any of that. He's just focused on mostly the sun and how it's going to unleash the ultimate flare. it's not just going to take down the grid or, do some damage to the atmosphere. It's going to actually create worldwide catastrophe, tsunamis that will wipe across the entire continents, wipe everybody out, and winds that are up to 1,000 miles per hour that are going to scour the whole land. And unless you're in a cave or, quote, his bunker that he's building in Colorado, you might not be safe. And so it's one guy that's basically, and I'm using him as an example. I'm not trying to diss his channel, but just say, here's one guy who's telling all of his subscribers that this is the truth, this is going to happen in your lifetime, and I can help protect you if you are part of my program. This is basically how the whole history of, cult-like attitudes have unfolded. But this is how so many YouTube channels are. That was my long-winded way of saying, I'm not here to prove anything to you or tell you anything's true. I'm just here to tell you what I think is likely or realistic in my opinion. So hopefully you respect that. I respect you. And we go back and forth. So, hi, okay, I'm reading the rest of the comments. Guy Gin Tonic says, nice to see you live from Tokyo. Fuck yeah, good to see you, Tokyo. That's great. That's interesting to know somebody's watching me all the way over there. Japan. Cool. Ohm says, the kratom strength has fallen. Yes, you are correct. Freestyler says, gray weather. Yeah, it's been actually, it was like almost 90 the other day. It was great. It's fucking awesome. John McD, thank you, my friend. That backyard looks familiar. No fucking way, dude. Okay, if you hadn't said that, I would not have even known that was you. Okay, let me tell you all a little story about John McD. And John McDonough was a guy who I met on YouTube about maybe, God, like 10 years ago now. And he and I chatted. He had a little channel. I had a channel. We talked about shit. He said he was coming to the Portland area. I said, you should stay at my house. And I insisted he crash on my couch, and he came over. I remember he brought me these two little things from the airport because he wanted to bring a gift. And there were these little, like, generic airport, something you can find as a gift, right? But they were cool. They were like little handmade mini vases, ceramic or something. And I still have them sitting in there. And he came and he hung out. We smoked weed. We chilled. We talked about life. And now he's down in California. And it's just so cool to meet people online that you actually meet in real life. That it was kind of John that broke me out of the idea that online people can't really be friends. I was like, wow, you can actually meet some pretty fucking cool people, on YouTube. So thanks, John. Appreciate it. You need to come back, dude. And if any of y'all come through Portland, I'm a little, I've talked to some subscribers that say they're from Portland. One guy wanted to go out for coffee, stuff like that. It's just a weird thing to me because years ago when I started my channel, and it's weird because I've only run into like two people, one guy twice at different places, like 50 miles apart, that both said that they recognized me and say, are you Carpo? And it was just the weirdest experience. I would not actually like it if my channel was big because I feel like, like Mr. Beast, for example, that shit wears on you, man. And I would not like that. So even that weird awkwardness, it's like, I'm just a dude, right? And they know that. But people are weird about meeting people that they've seen on the internet or on TV, even though they're just people, right? I'm just as awkward and weird as anybody else. I don't know. It was a really weird experience, but there was a point to that I can't recall now anyway. Hey, I'm going to say hi. Hey, John. Hello, Riley's. Tony. He used to live in Cali. Arkansas is hot and hell and humid, but more affordable. Yeah, anywhere over there. Arkansas, Tennessee. Well, not Tennessee so much, depending on where, but we've looked for land in Kentucky. My wife and I have been looking for some acreage up here in Washington. It's very expensive, so hopefully I'll get what we're looking for. Oh, Riley's. Okay, Dan Riley. Got you. Good to see you, my friend. John, appreciate you too, my friend. So, back to the discussion, or whatever y'all want to talk about. But, as the title suggested, it's my anniversary today. My wife is in there. I should probably be in there doing something with her, but I'm only taking a short break to make a live video because I thought it was important. It was just in my mind and I had to do it. Actually, I made a joke to my wife. I said, "Honey, I'm going to do a quick live cast to make some money for us to do something." But like that wasn't really the idea, but she knows that. But she doesn't want to go out. She doesn't want to go out to eat or anything. And we honestly wanted to go to a hot springs. It's a place up here. There are several hot springs in the Pacific Northwest, but this one's called Umpqua, and it's like these little pools, these blue-looking like hot spring pools, all in the hillside, all the way up the hillside, and it's so cool looking. Umpqua, Umpqua. You should look it up sometime. Gorgeous. I've always wanted to go there. We used to go to Bagby. It's had its moments. It's been up and down. That's a hot spring where they have their own tubs. You can fill personal logs that are carved out or big tubs. It's a cool place to go and very refreshing. I very much enjoy it and love going out to the hot springs. It's an awesome experience. Highly recommended for any individual. It's cleansing in the soul. My friend and I, last time I went to Bagby, I think, was when my friend and I went out and took mushrooms and then hiked up the trail. And it was during a full moon, which was an eclipse, a full lunar eclipse. And they kicked in and we got a little out of it, kind of missed the eclipse, even though it's like an hours long process. It was like 2 a.m. by the time we walked down the trail to look for it, and it was too late. But we spent so much time in that tub watching the steam rise and having this crazy psychedelic experience. And I guess that brings me to maybe a topic about psychedelics. I've been wanting to talk a lot about psychedelic healing, mental healing, and something that I think is, I'm wishy-washy about this because I've been wanting to be kind of a shaman for people, if you will. I hate to use that term, but that helps to define where I'm coming from. For people who are having psychedelic trips, to help them, walk them through their experiences. Now, this is a very difficult thing because the state is starting to sanction and approve people for like mushroom therapy, but these people are usually people who have psychiatry or psychologist degrees where they can actually address these people's grievances and problems in a way that's considered normal and in the DSM-5, if you will, a manual of diagnostic, diseases and mental illnesses. The reality is that we don't really know how to grasp these things very well, and sometimes you need somebody who's just been there, not somebody who has read books about it. And I know this because I've been through drug treatment with people who didn't know a goddamn thing about drugs. The people who ran it were a husband and wife team. I was forced to go through the state. And the husband and wife team, I admitted they'd never done drugs. They'd never been addicted. Yet, the irony was every time there was a break during the meeting, they would leave the room quickly, and you'd look out the window, and they'd be on the street smoking as many cigarettes as they could before it started again. So, it's just one of those things. Everybody's got their addictions. Everybody's got their shortcomings. It's human. It's human. Chris, good to see you, my friend. He says he spent a lot of time in nature today and feels so much better. That's a beautiful thing. I couldn't recommend that enough. Of all the drugs out there, that nature is probably the one that you can overdose on and never have enough. Although, maybe that's not true. I gotta say, after my family and I go out on a long trip and go travel somewhere, one of my favorite things to do is to come back to my home, sit down on my couch, and just be lazy and watch TV. I feel like it's like an earned treat. And I'm really grateful to have walls around me, but it's a balance. You have to get out and see things in nature. You have to get out even to the park. So Tony says, happy anniversary. I appreciate that. He says, my lady and I almost 20 years. Fuck yeah, bro. Thanks, Tony. 20 years is awesome. My wife and I have only been married for 11 years. We got engaged after we'd been together like 5 years, I think, 4 years. Something like that, maybe less, I don't recall exactly. We got engaged, but we never actually got married until 2012, sorry. I remember, that was the year my son was born, but she was pregnant with our son when we went, and like almost God, she must have been like 6, 7 months pregnant when we went, because it was May, and he was born, yeah, June, July, August, September. So she was 5 months pregnant when we went to Florida, and she looked beautiful. Of course, my wife's awesome. She looks gorgeous on the beach. We've got pictures of us dressed in pretty casual wedding gear. Had a very casual wedding. Had some Mexican blankets shipped over so we could just throw them out for the people and give it as gifts, and that was about it. And it was beautiful. And another thing that is today is May Day. And May Day, to a lot of people, they don't think about it as anything but a day for, what, flowers or some shit. Fuck all that. You know, there's a whole conspiracy behind why May Day is considered a day for flowers. I'll tell you why. It all started back in the day when people were afraid that during the Cold War that Americans, you know, weren't enough behind solidarity behind the government, and the working, you know, the working class might rebel, right? So May Day, May 1st, was originally Worker Solidarity Day. And in the 1800s, I believe it was the late 1800s, there was a worker uprising, and over 200,000 people, I think it was 200,000 workers, protested and went on strike. And this was, I'm not sure if this was when the Pinkertons were created. The Pinkertons were these thugs that would come in and like beat any protesters and try to make an example out of them, basically get back to work. And all they were asking for was an 8-hour fucking workday. And they got it, right? I mean, these protests are something your ancestors did. Your forefathers, ancestors, whoever the fuck you want to call them, they went out and they busted their ass and risked their health and life in the street. This is why protests today are such a joke. You might have got tear gassed. I got tear gassed a couple times in Portland, but it's nothing like getting beaten. And, well, I almost got beaten too. My son got beaten up a little bit, but we were trying to film the protest back in June of 2020. I've got such great footage. I've got to share that one day. I wanted to keep it for myself and hang on to it. I'm like, one day I'm going to make use of this. I was like right up in the front there, but anyway, fucking A. See, I got so far off track and so far off point, I completely forgot what I was talking about. Maybe somebody will remind me. Oh, worker solidarity. So, yeah, May 1st was originally a workers' day, and I think it was, I don't know if it was Roosevelt, Hoover, one of these guys that decided we need to make this day about something else. They wanted to get rid of that kind of association with worker rebellion, and they managed to do so. But eventually they moved Labor Day into September because it was less of an issue. There's a whole story behind it. It's pretty interesting. But today is worldwide known as a day for worker solidarity. I actually was supposed to work today, and I texted my boss because I lost my phone, as I mentioned earlier. So I texted my boss from my wife's phone and said, dude, are we working today? Because, you know, I want to make sure before I show up. And he said the trailer never showed up, and the lumber package is going to come tomorrow, and the trailer. So I was like, all right, we'll meet tomorrow. And that gave me a day off to kind of recuperate on that Labor Day, right? Perfect timing. I build tiny houses, and we were supposed to get this trailer last Friday, but it ended up coming in late. And, you know, kind of the story of everything these days. So I've got the very last of my espresso here, my Dancing Bear cup. I like a good latte on the West Coast. West Coast liberal latte moment. But I make my own. I don't go to Starbucks. I don't have the money to spend $7 on a goddamn coffee. I can't believe it. So my wife and I, when we went to Seattle to see fish, we actually went into Starbucks because it was connected to the motel we were staying in. Just walked through a door. I was like, okay, cool. Went in there and ordered 2 house coffees. Oh, what size? Now let's just get Venti. Got a Venti house coffee, okay? It's $8.40. $8.36 or something. Almost $4.20 per cup. Cup of coffee for over $4. That's where we're at, my friends. That's where we're at. I made a whole video today about, you know, I didn't really get into that, the pricing of things and shrinkflation and overpricing, but I did get in, and I especially wanted to get into, you know, things that are built to fail or basically planned obsolescence in products. But I ended up getting into just talking about subscription based models. You know that they're putting heated seats in cars now, like Mercedes and BMW, that you can't access unless you have an app, and you have to, or not an app, but you have to pay for a subscription. And then your car has to be able to connect to the internet to acknowledge your subscription so you can use the heated seats. This is no joke. I made a video about this and I had a whole list of shit. Heated seats, but also to access the torque in your car or the high horsepower. So they have a computer now that holds back horsepower unless you want to pay for a subscription for the maximum performance version of your car. Like, you're buying cars now with features that you don't just pay a little more for the feature and have it for life. You pay every month for it for the rest of your life. It's like software. It's like a subscription service to everything now. It's fucked up. I don't get it. I'm completely blown away that people haven't just raised hell over this. And I'll tell you, I'm never going to buy a new car unless I'm rich. So, but if I were to go buy a used car in a few years that's 5 years old, I would have to subscribe to use the features in the car from the new owner. So I can't just buy a car and use it. I have to buy and pay for a monthly subscription. Sit on that shit for a minute. I mean, really think about that. What does that mean? Like, how? And the video was going to be titled "You Will Own Nothing and Be Happy." It was based on the Klaus Schwab comment, which everybody raised a stink about. And I would say that people really kind of overblew the comment, but at the same time, it's true that I understand why they did, because people are sick of being told that they should be happy with what they have. They want more, they demand more, they expect more. That's the way the fucking world should work. We should demand more as workers, as individuals. Hell, the job I'm working right now, I love my job, but I don't make nearly enough that I should as a carpenter. And I have been working for our friend up in Kalama, and I love that place, and I like working there too. It's a little more complicated because there's no power there up at the cabin and stuff, but but I love working for the boss that I have, and I want to do right by him. So I'm always considered myself a good worker. I've always had a good work ethic. I always want to put my best foot forward. If I'm working for somebody, I would never fuck them over. If I'm working for a customer, I don't slack when they leave and charge them hours. I always give people hours. I always end up saying, "Oh, well, I was down by the river smoking a joint during this 5 minutes. So I'm not going to charge them for this." I don't even take breaks in construction because I just feel weird about it. And I know I should, and I know I'm entitled to it, but I don't want to be entitled because that makes me feel like an asshole, if that makes sense. It's a weird thing. I might be cheating myself, but it feels right. I don't want to fuck anybody else over. You know what I'm saying? So, happy anniversary. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Freestyler. You were reading about the Pinkertons? Nice. Yeah, they are still around, actually, Chris. $10, my friend. Followed your channel for probably a decade. Always love your talks. Happy anniversary. Thank you, L. I really appreciate that. And it's always great to see a subscriber that's been around for that long, because there are very few channels which I've followed for a decade, but there are a few out there. And yeah, those are the ones that I'm always appreciative of as well. So thank you. Dead and Company. Eric, good to see you. Wish I could attend, he says. I'm actually going out to the one in the Gorge, but I'm also going to the one in California. My wife and I and our friend Scoey and my son and his girlfriend are all going to go down there. We want to go whichever way's cheapest. I know driving might be cheaper than flying, but honestly, with gas prices, we're thinking flying. But then if we can stay near the arena, I don't know how that's going to work. We'll figure it out. We're very fly-by-night, the seat of our pants type people, my wife and I. And our friend Scoey, he's the opposite. He likes to plan everything ahead. So he's been asking us, like, "Hey man, what are we going to do here?" And we're like, I don't know, we'll figure it out. But yeah, we're going to be going to Dead and Company in the Gorge. I highly recommend, if you ever go there, you should definitely definitely get out there. It's way out in the desert. Takes a while to get there, but it's worth the visit, especially for an event that lasts like a weekend. You've got to get the full camping experience. Going to the Dead is the best. If any of you have nothing, the money and nothing to do this summer and you want to go do something fun, go to the Dead and Company out in the gorge. Even if you don't like the Dead, the parking lot is hilarious. You just take some acid and watch people run around with their nitrous tanks and stuff. It's like something that you just can't explain to people until you've been there. And honestly, it's one of those things where you can actually be dead sober and have a great time. You don't have to get high. There's a huge misconception about Dead shows that you have to be stoned or on acid. No, there is a such thing as a contact high, and being there with other people will explain that to you. So, Tony says, "You blew my mind what you told me about the cars. Crazy. I already forgot what I said about the cars. God damn it. Make some, make some room for me. Oh, big ass." Freestyler says, "Are you interested in any muscle cars, 50 to 90s?" Yes, I am. Oh God, my dream is, and I've told this, it's not a midlife crisis. I've wanted this my whole life. So let me just tell you a quick story. When I was about 18 or 19, maybe 20, I worked for this guy named Don, and he was kind of one of those, kind of a dorky guy that wanted to be cool, but we did construction. I worked for him, and we bought this. He did a bathroom remodel for a friend. The guy couldn't pay him. He didn't have the money. Something happened. So the guy said, "Look, I owe you 10 grand. I'll give you this car and like 5 grand or something." And the car was a 78 Camaro, shit brown, and that color, that color. And so I went over to his house one night and worked on the clock, like helping him do his car stuff, because that's how a lot of construction bosses are. If there's nothing else to do, they'll drag you in to wash their car and clean stuff. And he brought me in to help him install a line lock kit. And if you're not familiar, a line lock kit is where there's a button next to the shifter. You hold the button down, hit the gas, and the tires will spin. And then when you let go of the button, there's like a 1 or 2 second delay, then it takes off. It's a way to lock them up without a brake. And so I helped him install that, and we put some other stuff in. But this car apparently was souped up with like $20,000 worth of shit. The engine was fucking beautiful. So after it was all done, one day he took me up into the back roads of Wilsonville down in southern, in Oregon down there, and he brought it up to the top of a hill, and then he like got out and he had me get in the driver's seat. He's like, "Check it out, try it out." And I remember hitting that line lock, hitting that gas, those tires spinning, illegal tires, like completely illegal racing tires. They should, that thing was not street legal at all. And let go of that thing, and it fucking took off, dude. It was like, oh my God, I was in heaven. And yes, there is something to be said about men and their adrenaline and that feeling in your nuts when you're just like, oh my God, groin, sorry. That feeling was the best. And anyway, since then, I've always wanted one. And I've always wanted if that answers your question, a 78 shit brown Camaro, souped up. But honestly, I'd take a Mustang. I would take a rice burner if it was, the right car, NSX or whatever what the hell, some of these little Nissans. And I'm not a car guy, so I don't know all the names. I just know that there are some extremely fast versions. I think there's like a ZX1 or something. Like it's like a Corvette that's like ridiculous horsepower. Like I want something that when I hit the gas, it's just fucking gone. So my whole thing is when I finally do buy a muscle car, I don't want one that's a piece of crap. I want one that's actually gonna do it for me. And honestly, it doesn't even have to look good. The paint can be peeling off it for all I care. Although I would prefer to have something nice. I don't think I want to see myself affording that. But oh God, I'm getting all excited thinking about a fucking muscle car now. Anyway, the picture on this thing is not working that well. But anyway, hold on, I gotta grab something. Why did I say that? That was a joke when I said to you, not to me. Bubble Stash IPA. They opened a corner market, and I can't stop going down there and getting these little tall cans. Which, by the way, when I was about 15 years ago, they were 24 or 22 ounces. Like, at one time they were 24 ounces. Then they went down to 22s when I was a kid, and now they're down to 19.4 ounces, I think. Or is it less? 19.2 now. Lost 2 more points. So anyway, Freestyler, thanks for asking. Yes, I am interested in all muscle cars. I want something that's gonna fucking kick ass. Um, but I am also not a car guy, like Chris says. Yeah, my dream car. I used to joke. I've thought I really want an old school like Jaguar or something, but these are all just ideas, not cars I'd actually want, because that means you have to maintain them. If I was going to get the best car, I want something that's very common, which is why a Camaro or a Corvette or something would be great. A year where the parts are interchangeable, where you can go down to a local place and just buy anything you need, carry an extra fucking battery, alternator, all the, belts, all the normal shit, and be able to go down to any Napa and just pick one up when you need it. Because there are some awesome cars out there that just are impossible to find parts for. But maybe I'd kill myself in one of these 1,000 horsepower beasts. But, it sure would be fun to just hit the gas and just go. The funny thing, and I guess the irony right now is that, yes, you can buy a Tesla, or there are certain electric cars that go so freaking fast, it's unbelievable. 0 to 60 in like a few seconds, it blows my mind. But here's the thing, they might even end up being faster than gas cars, but they will never feel the same. That feeling and that rumble of just hauling ass, it's a different experience. Anyway, yeah. Push the prissy pedal instead of hitting the gas. I don't think that was South Park. I can't remember. It was some joke about that. But South Park did a whole episode about driving Priuses and how there was kind of this pious attitude. One thing about driving electric cars, so my wife just registered her vehicle for the first time, or the second time, I guess, since we got it, and realized there's a $75 electric vehicle or hybrid fee to register it. It's like half of the charge of registration. We looked into it and found out there's a lot of people complaining because that fee is meant to cover, guess what? Public charging stations for electric vehicles. So, in other words, if you buy a hybrid, even though you don't use electric charging stations and never will, you pay a $75 fee every year just to own a hybrid of any type in Washington state, to pay for these things that they never even really built in very many places. However, if you're going to build electric cars, it should be your own responsibility to build electric charging stations, not the cities. It shouldn't be the responsibility of us, the consumers, to pay for those things. Unless you're buying into another subscription service, I guess. So yeah, it's pretty fucked up when you think about it. And yeah, but we're being nickeled and dimed for everything in this world, and that's just how it is. Just how it is. Honda of Love, a 78 Honda Civic. I drive a Honda Accord right now. We had a Civic before, and we had this guy come and he was going to put in a 6-speed transmission with like this souped up I can't even remember what he was doing to it. And then he ditched on us. Nobody knew how to finish it. We just gave it up because it was an old 80s version. But I drive right now like a 2001 Honda Accord I got for $1,000 from a friend of mine. It's a great little car. It stopped running for a couple of years, and I found out it was something as simple as this little, like, fucking emissions regulator intake thing that I think it was part of the throttle body, but it's just stupid. I should have fixed it sooner. But Hondas are very simple, is the point. They're usually something really easy to fix. Some cars, it's just impossible. Pontiac Trans Am. Nice. Hell yeah. Smug. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, smug. They're creating smug from driving these things instead of smog. That was a great episode. I loved it. And it was the one where George Clooney's speech, acceptance speech, is coming to meet the smug cloud, and it's going to create this huge catastrophe. Yeah. But, I have my qualms about electric vehicles as well. If anyone wants to go into that debate, I guess we could, but it's knowing how the batteries are manufactured, how long they last, how they're disposed of, the fire potential and fire hazard, as well as the rare earth elements that are used to drive these cars, and the different components, where they're manufactured. Just like windmills, they're great, right? They produce electricity, but the rare earth magnets in there come from the rare earth that's mined from China, which leaves behind pits of toxic waste and sludge, which the local people have to deal with. And it's not a beautiful sight, but we don't ever see that. We just think it's green. It's very hard for Americans to see what green actually is because we don't suffer the consequences as much. But if you live in a place like Palestine, Ohio, I think that you probably do understand these things. Um, when trains are hauling toxic chemicals across cities, it's, I guess people, it's funny because people don't realize that there are dozens of train derailments. I mean, every day there's up to like, what, 20? I think there's something like 1,500 a year. It gets like crazy. Like I can't remember the actual numbers now. I had them all written down, but I know there's at least a dozen a day. And most of them are minor. Very few involve hazardous cargo. But at least I think 2 or 3 times a month there's a derailment in the US that has extremely hazardous cargo which leaks. And these are dealt with accordingly. Most of the time it's quiet. These are in rural areas where nobody says anything. Shh, shh, shh. Get it out what you can. Get it out of the creek. You're leaking benzene into the creek. You just get out as much as you can. Let the rest just float down and kill everything in its fucking path. But I know that there's a side of it. I'm not going to be one of those blue hairs standing out protesting, we should never use chemicals, because I understand. We need gas. We need chemicals. We need oil. We're never going to abandon these things completely. The human race is far too dependent on these things right now. Many of the third world countries, if you want to call it that, unless that's offensive now, want to, they still need to burn coal and wood in order to heat their homes. And in the West, we want to talk about going green. Fine, we can start that, but it's not going to happen quick enough for people to stop using fossil fuels tomorrow. So we've kind of got to do a gradual transition, which nuclear would be a great option. People are far too scared of nuclear power. I did a lot of research about it when I was in jail for a little while. Not very long. It's like 30 days, but I read this book and it was great. Taught me all about these things that I didn't know before. That nuclear power isn't that scary. That there are molten salt reactors in different forms that don't melt down, and ways that humans could actually survive and take care of one another. And not just be constantly at war over resources. But we are. However, I'll admit, even then, there's going to be a dispute about who the uranium ore belongs to, and there will always be a shortage of something. It's human nature to just sit and scoff at each other and take away each other's resources to make sure that our lives are better for our people. I heard this complete mock, it was like from the 50s, it was the Iron Mountain Report or something, or it was based on that. It was this joke about how war is necessary, how humans can't survive without war. It's just part of who we are, and we'll never abandon it, and peace is not possible without full control by the government. That's kind of the mentality, you know, that we allow to flourish, that war is inevitable, that, oh well, our country's going to declare war on places. We might as well just accept it for what it is. And we do. And it costs us all dearly, dearly. Hmm. Wealth means having more than you need, says Almighty. Well, I guess that's true in some people's minds, perhaps, but I don't know what need means. So, wealth may mean having more than you need, but what I mean is, what do you need? And is it possible that each individual needs something different? So, one person may need very little to survive and be happy. But what if some people, their brains work differently to where they need a lot more to be happy? This is great because you opened up this Pandora's box here. I got to answer this one. So, what I mean, what if nature, within the natural model of things, some humans are naturally more attracted to things and accumulating things, but that nature wants that because then those things can be distributed more, let's say more, they can be distributed more efficiently to more people rather than each individual giving one thing to every one person. So there are some people, the same way that some people desire to have a lot of money, they become the custodians of that money. Now the flaw comes when the people don't use the money or distribute the money or the products properly, or they skim or lie. But let's say theoretically it worked. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's just a long shot, but I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that. Just a more than you need thing. I was thinking about wealth, because to me, wealth, of course, is wealth has nothing to do with money. To me, there are people who are extremely rich who have killed themselves, and there are people who are dirt poor and in poverty who survive. People who are imprisoned in bamboo cages in Vietnam as soldiers for a decade or two and fight through it. You know, there are strong people and there are weak people and everyone in between. But money doesn't seem to be a distinguishing factor of wealth if wealth is having, I don't know. It's hard to say because I guess wealth to me is what would be most important to you. Like having all you need would be fulfilled by having people in your life and having community. But I guess wealth in the dictionary might actually be more, I don't know, I'd have to look it up. But using it as the term of what wealth should be, I think it has everything to do with family and friends. If you have no family or friends, then you have no wealth. And that's the ultimate measure of success, is not how many people you know by any means or how many friends you have or family. You can't help how much family you have, right? But you can decide how you interact with other people and how much time you want to spend with other people. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to have to go pretty quick, I think, because it's getting into the evening and I'm getting kind of tired. And I think my camera's probably going to die here in a moment, but thanks for coming along. Speaking of wealth, um, and having more than you need, honestly, I feel like I do have everything I need in life. But there are certain things that I want. And it's hard to determine actually what we should want. I think that's one of the harder things for us to figure out. What we should be attracted to, whether we deserve to have the things we want. I want a bunch of acreage and a farmhouse and a shop, so I feel like I'd be more inspired and that I could do good things with it. If I just had the space, just a few acres and a shop and a house where I could set up all my tools and just start building and be inspired by the woods and walk on my property, that would inspire me to even do more and be more successful. That remains to be seen because I still have to do it and get the money and find the land and all that. But it's going to happen because I got faith. I'm determined. Someday. It's all about making shit happen for yourself, so. Train tracks are falling apart. Yeah, Chris, they are, actually. There's a lot of fucked up shit out there falling apart. They like it that way, though. The most unhappy are the ultra rich. That can often be true from what I've heard. Yeah, I've definitely heard that. I can't confirm because I've never been ultra rich, but when you're looking for the biggest yacht, you probably got mental issues come along with it. Tony says, it's amazing how people's needs can change when they're deathly ill or on the street homeless. Simple things mean the most. Great point, and I would like to add to that that this is how I kind of view life in general and what's important. Often, the most important things are like, what do old people talk about on their deathbed, or people who are suffering or dying or, in their last days, know it. They talk about wish they'd loved more. They never talk about making more money. That's a fact. You just don't hear people say, I wish I'd made more money. It's not a thing. But in our lives, we think that's what's important because we're always looking to move up. We're fooled. We're tricked by society into thinking certain things are more important than they are. So, yeah. I agree, Chris. Yes, I'm going to stand up for a minute. I'll spend a few more minutes on here. But yes, the ultra rich are awful. I saw that comment there by Ohm, I think. And what I've heard from people is that this was from a psychologist to the ultra rich. And they had a friend that they helped out that was rich, and they recommended them to all their friends. And they made a video about the kind of shit that the rich people say to each other, or to them about each other and about themselves and their lives. And let me just say, I don't know how miserable the general population is, but the ultra rich are some of the most paranoid, uh, neurotic, and depressed people out there that put on such a big face. They'll go to parties, they'll put on smiles and their veneers and their nice clothes and their diamonds and pretend they give a fuck about each other. But honestly, it's so fake, you can just see it. They're not jumping in and going, yo, bro, giving each other a hug and a high five. I mean, isn't that the kind of like connection we really yearn for? Being able to high five people, hug people, lay down under the stars with people, even strangers. If I lay down and I meet somebody at a dead show or at an event or anywhere at a park, we get to talk and we might lay down and chat, might sit down and hang out, whatever it might be. I don't assume they expect something from me. And I think that this is one of the crucial aspects of the wealthy that I've heard is that they're ultra paranoid that people are always trying to get something from them. Because yes, there are people who go up and randomly bump into rich people knowing exactly who they are and pretend to be friends to make money. I mean, or claim to make these elaborate stories about being a long lost relative. This shit does happen because people are really fucking lame about money. Not only are the wealthy depressed about having too much and having to hang on to it, but the poor are often out there trying to fool the rich into thinking that they're rich too. It's a weird world. And ultimately, the people really want. They want security. I mean, isn't that what people are really after is security? Think about it. They want to feel like their life matters. They want to feel like their life is protected and the things that they've accumulated can be hung on to. Ultimately, you can hang on to your money for a while. You can hang on to your wealth. You can hang on to your status. You can hang on to your family. But everything's going to leave you one day. And that's not in a negative way. That's saying that tomorrow, anything that you could lose, you should have a double take about that being part of your value. So when I talk about a person being wealthy, it's been a long discussion about wealth, but wealth to me is the things you can't take away. True wealth cannot be taken away, meaning anything you possess, anything you own, anything that shows your status, it can all be taken away. Your hair, your clothing, everything. You can be stripped naked, but other than the finality of death, you can't take away my values. You can't take away my judgments, my education, the things that I've learned in my life. You could beat me senseless and I'll forget it, but you see what I'm saying. And so that's why I think philosophy is one of the most important things we can learn. It's unfortunate we can lose it all, but you can't lose everything, right? I mean, there are certain things that just can't be taken away. Going through the comments real quick here. Yeah, hot wings. About some hot wings. I do not eat hot wings, my friend. I've never eaten hot wings. I don't like wings. I don't really like chicken on the bone or off the bone. I do like chicken breasts. That's the only type of chicken I'll eat. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to head out now. I appreciate you all. Thanks for coming along. Just wanted to get some thoughts out. It's been an hour now, and I think I might take some MDMA and relax tonight. And it might be a good night for that. Recollection, psychedelic recollection, if you will. A couple weeks ago at Fish, I took some LSD at the show and had an amazing experience. And for the first time in my life, I did some ketamine therapy. And I want to kind of make a story about that, but I feel like it will deserve its own entire video, and kind of like to plan it out a little better. But yeah, it's an amazing thing. Highly recommended that people look into psychedelic therapy if they have any issues they need to resolve. And we'll get into that next time. So peace and love. I'll see y'all next time. Bye now. How do I turn this thing off? It's a weird thing.